Tanya Tymus Bellamy is a 39-year industry veteran. She is a CEO and serial entrepreneur. She is also the salon owner of McKenna Jordan Salon. She's a beauty strategist, a product line owner, and today we get to hear her story, how she got to where she is, and all the lessons she's learned along the way. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I am your host. And today I'm with Tanya Tymus Bellamy. How you doing today, Tanya?
I'm doing great and super excited to be here. And I feel like that was a mouthful you had to get off there.
It
So
was.
clearly I can say this 39 year journey, it's been a journey.
Nice. Well, we can't wait to hear all about it. I just want to give some context to the audience. I met Tanya at one of our hairpreneur happy hours. It was at the Palm, and you came by, and we got to talking, and I really liked talking to you, and I asked you if you'd be interested in coming on and sharing your story. I had also seen you before you showed up, so I kind of knew a little bit about you, not enough to like say that I know all the answers to the questions you're gonna ask today, but I felt like I kind of had a vibe with you already, which was kind of cool for me. I mean, you didn't, maybe you didn't with me because vice versa, but I was like, oh, I liked the type of conversations you were having, and then I also had met one of your employees, so I'm excited for today.
Yes, I agree. I think that's the beauty of being a hairdresser for so many years. You learn how to like weave in and out of personalities all the time. And I think we have the gift of making everyone feel like they're our friends. Even though this is business, it really does help to make everyone feel like, oh, they're sitting with a friend for an hour, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually I read a book when I was just getting started in the industry very early on, and it was something, the title was something like How to Get Everything You've Ever Wanted and Never Feel Powerless Again,
Yes.
or something like that. And it said a number of things, but the thing it repeated more than anything was people have to like you. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to like develop a relationship with people who they like you. So like in general, I would say that leads to success if people like you. And I would completely agree that the more successful we are, probably the more people that like being with us in our
Yes.
time, you know?
Yeah. Um, which has really, panned out to serve me well over the years because I was sharing with you that I've owned 10 salons in 6 different cities. So being able to move from starting out in Washington, D.C., and I almost hate to say this year because it's so long ago, 1987.
All right. Nice.
And then having a 20-year career in Atlanta where I had 7 salons there. And a lot of times it was 2 at the same time. And at that point, we're talking the 90s, 2000s. And I feel like that was the golden era of beauty because I actually had 2 30-station salons. I was doing the salons, the spas, the whole gamut. But when I think about from where I started, a 19-year-old young lady in Northwest DC, because my first salon was on Georgia Avenue, and I feel very blessed that I was able to open my first salon at 21. I see a lot of people doing that now. I have some views on that, but I'll let that go because it's hard to do something and then tell other people they're not ready to do what you did. But I do think the timing was different. And I think I always knew that this was my calling because I really don't think people always say, like, how did you get into the industry? I really, really feel like the industry chose me. I can remember graduating high school and my mom was like, if you don't go to college, you need to do something. And I literally called myself buying some time and went to the National Institute of Cosmetology in Northwest DC. And from there, it's been history.
How old were
Um,
you when you went there for cosmetology?
what year?
No, how old were you? Were like 17,
19.
18, 19. So,
Yes.
and how long was school?
At that time it was about 9 months, but it might have taken me about 11.
Okay. All right. So let's make it a year. And so you were 20. So did you work anywhere before you opened your salon?
I did. I worked at a salon in Bladensburg, Maryland, and that young lady, it was called oh my goodness. What was it called? In Flight Salon. And she has remained my mentor over the years.
Oh,
I
nice.
was there for a little under a year. But being a DC girl, because I was born and raised in DC, I wanted to move my talent to the DC area. And I had spent a short time at a salon on 14th Street. I believe it was called Myth and Magic. And it was a very short lived, but that's where I really kind of honed my skills, honed my craft, and really built a strong clientele.
So you worked at two salons before
Mm-hmm.
you open up your own salon?
I did, yes.
Okay. And so you worked for what, I guess two years, a
Give or
year?
take, yeah, about 2 years.
Okay.
And what kind of thrust me into it, like I keep on saying, like I honestly feel like this journey is constantly pushing me to the next thing. The salon I worked in at the time, they would just always have issues. You would come to work, the water may be off, the power may be off, the doors may, I mean, just all kind of crazy things. And I did know I was ready to jump out or step out on faith at that time. But at 21, I think you pretty much just going on adrenaline and, beating that chest as to, I got this, I can do this. I don't know that I had the wherewithal to really focus on strategy. I
Mm.
think definitely the 21-year-old Tanya literally was surviving on talent. And I can say, like, back to that feeling very blessed, I was probably able to become a six-figure stylist my second year in the industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so let's go back for a second. So you go to school, you work at two different salons for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, you had an experience with two different salon owners and two different types of the customer experiences, I'm
Yes.
assuming. And so like the vibes were different in these
Mm-hmm.
places. Yeah.
Yes.
And why'd you leave the first one? Because you wanted to be in DC?
Yes.
Okay.
It just felt like the next part of my journey. When I was in hair school, I assisted for her name is Carolyn Marshall. Like I said, she owned In Flight back in the day, but she was one of the, I can't remember the name of the show where they would win the Rolls Royce. I know Barry Fletcher won one, and she won one year. So she was a very popular stylist in this area many, many moons ago. She did a lot of competitive things. And I would travel with her. So she piqued my interest in that regard. So I would say if I had any little bit of strategy at that young age, it definitely came from the first salon and not the
Okay.
second.
And then what about the second salon? They had problems just to like kind of this is like this narrative of salon people going to salons and saying things like they got problems, they weren't able to do this. That's still not an uncommon thing. Like it's more common nowadays than you would think, considering it's we've been at this for so long. What type of advice or thoughts would you like to share to any newer talent that is watching this and thinking, oh, here we go, another salon. This is what I'm worried about, going to work at a
Yes.
salon with the toxic vibes or the unprofessional vibes or whatever. Can you just like give a little piece of advice or a thought or share a thought to anybody on that real quick?
Well, I will say at that time, I probably did not do my due diligence. A great
Okay.
friend of mine was a friend of the owners, and they were starting a new project. And it was a beautiful space, and it was in a very desirable location as well. So I don't know that they had any salon history before that.
Okay.
So I didn't really have a lot to go on other than, and mind you, we're talking about a 20-year-old mindset at this age too.
Right.
So it felt like everything that I wanted. I don't know that I even thought about, are they going to be able to keep the lights on? Will the water be running? Will they open the doors on time? Things of that nature. I came almost to, even though I was young, almost to throw them a bone. They didn't have anyone there at the time. So I came and brought another young lady with me, and then they started kind of slow building from there. But fortunately, not only the young lady who came with me, a couple of the ladies who came. I mean, we were all just very frustrated with the situation because we were super talented, young go-getters, ready to really, jam it out. And unfortunately for them, I think they just, this was a new project for them. I don't think they were beauty industry related before then. They came in as an investor. And I always say to them, that would be a bit of an advice. Sometimes when you're going to spaces where people do not know the industry, so that would be what I would definitely look out for, because the nuances of the beauty industry are totally different from corporate. We can try to corporatize them as much as we want to, but the environment is just different. There's no other way to say it. It is that fine line of trying to make sure that you're always professional and that you're following all of the guidelines that a major corporation would follow. But as I said, those clients always feel like you're their friend. So it's like you kind of have to make them feel at home, but you also have to stay professional. So when people just don't really know all of those nuances and the ins and outs of the beauty industry, I would definitely say that would be someone to look out for or not look out for.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's get back to your story. So you go off and you open a salon. You open a salon here in DC?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that story of like opening the salon, and then from that salon, did you go to Atlanta after
I
that
did,
salon?
yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that salon, any sort of like lessons that you learned, or really, any sort of part of that story that you feel like would be valuable, and then take us to Atlanta.
So I would think my most valuable lesson from my first location. Now we would win all of the major hair shows in DC all the time. So from the outside looking in, I do think people thought we were successful. I mean, we were doing very well financially. But I did have a lot of renters. And when I was really ready to take my business serious, I understood that I needed to make some changes. And that salon was Hairport International on Georgia Avenue. I was there for 7 years. And I think what happened over that period of time, I just grew and my team didn't. They didn't want to recognize the changes because I was traveling. I was always going to hair shows. And the first young lady that I mentioned that was my mentor, I had the opportunity to go over to London and work with Ultra Sheen and Genteel, all of these major hair products. So it started to pique my interest on the way things were done in other areas and other spaces. And at 21, I just wanted my team. There's times we would be in that place from 10 in the morning to midnight at night. I mean, we were girls, you know what I mean? So when I was really ready to take my business serious, I don't think that they were ready to come along for that ride.
Totally, totally. So how did you make such a big decision to shut down a shop after 7 years and move off to Atlanta? And tell us, like, when you got to Atlanta, how'd you get up off the ground there?
So I teetered a little bit. I did not close my space here, but I moved to Atlanta. And I
Okay.
would come back once a month because I really just almost needed a break to figure out what I wanted to do next. I knew it was in beauty, but I needed to take my time and do things the right way. I felt like I had a whole new environment, a clean slate to work with, and I could really curate this next space exactly the way I wanted to do that. And this is something now, even at a young age, I've always gone abroad to go to spas. And so I started kind of getting a feel for that industry as well. So I teetered for about a year. Like I said, I would come home and make money. And then in Atlanta, I was just kind of just trying to figure it all out. You know what I mean? What my next steps was, finding a location, all of the things. I didn't open right away. I actually worked in a salon, but I didn't even do that right away. I almost felt like I just needed a break. So if you want to say I sort of stepped away for maybe about 6 months, but not
Nice.
completely because I did have the opportunity to come back and forth to DC to service clients just to kind of hold me over financially until I could figure it all out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds pretty awesome that you took 6 months off, essentially 6 months off for yourself, to
Yes.
protect your mental health, to get to kind of like gain new perspective. I think that's so difficult to do for the average small business owner or entrepreneur. So
Yes.
that's awesome. So okay, so you leave, you go for 6 months, you're coming back and forth, you figure out something, and then you make a decision to open up a shop, and then many other shops. So tell us a little bit about your Atlanta story.
So like I said, I worked in a salon for a short period of time, but at that point, I was really just gathering information. I knew that I wanted to be in Buckhead because I knew I wanted to offer high-end services to a high-end clientele. I went through SBA at the time, the Small Business Association, and they helped me curate a business plan. And I literally am so thankful to them for that because all of the missing pieces that I just could, I mean, of course, we weren't, I mean, we're talking, when did I open there? 90, maybe 95, 96, perhaps. So you weren't Googling things the way you did. You literally had to do your homework and find the information. And them creating that business plan for me allowed me to shop that around and find investors because I knew I did not want to go to a bank and get a loan. So my first salon in Atlanta was a 12-station salon, and I had 8 treatment rooms as a spa. We had beachy showers, massage rooms. I had nail techs. It was awesome, honestly. I'm still like feel nostalgic when I think about what I was able to accomplish in a whole new city. It was amazing. And because when I opened, I was one of 3 African American salon and spa owners in the entire country. So we
What?
had major write-ups in Essence and Vogue and Elle and O. I mean, any
Nice.
major magazine you can think of, they spotlighted us. And when I shopped for that investor, I turned to a friend who was unfortunately no longer with us. Dikembe Mutombo who was the basketball player. He was my first investor. We knew each other from here, his Georgetown days, and he just happened to be playing for the Atlanta Hawks. And I shared my dream with him. And fortunately, it's what you call an angel investor when you find investors who you can kind of create the terms and what you pay back. But because I think having his name attached to it in the beginning, when I say we just took off right away, that's how we were able, I think, to get a lot of those write-ups in magazines. But at the core of it, we were doing great work. We serviced such clients as like Tyler Perry, Beyonce, Tiny from I don't even know what show she's on. We did a lot of the Housewives, all of the who's who. We actually had at the time they were just starting to get into the movies, but the music industry was big, and we had a contract with LaFace Records, Babyface in LA. So a lot of a lot of those artists that they were working with, they would come to the salon and get their hair done. We've done Pink. When I'm thinking of all of the artists, I can't even remember. It was so many artists. Tyler Perry was a client for a very long time as well. So like I said, their journey was just awesome. I still get goosebumps about just how it just went. You know what I mean? And fortunately, we continue to grow and grow and grow. And it was very good to me. And we actually were featured in that Tyler Perry "Why Did I Get Married" movie. The salon that's in that mirror movie was the salon that I had at the
Oh,
time.
oh, right, nice.
Yeah.
So I got a question. You made a statement earlier that you knew you didn't want to go through a bank. Can you just expand on that? Like for everybody out there who's listening is like, this is I they wanted to be a salon owner and you're kind of like reaffirming that that sounds like an awesome idea. But like money is always a question. So like
Yes.
can you just talk on the funding piece? Do a little bit of a kind of double click on that?
Yes. Well, for me at the time, I literally had everything in place. Like I said, I had the business plan that I had was armed with from SBA. I knew exactly what I wanted to offer. I mean, so I expounded on that as well. I even came to meetings, and he wasn't the first person I went to. I came to meetings with color schemes, locations, because I couldn't really secure a location until I had the money to do so.
Mm.
And I was able to be on Peachtree and but back to, I guess, the money, because I'm getting ready to get ahead of myself. I shocked quite a few people. And a lot of people had a lot of questions, but because I did have a relationship with him, he offered the money and he was very hands off. And the reason I did not want to go through to a bank because I didn't know what it was going to be. You know what I mean? Here, I knew people. I was born and raised here. So when I opened my salon here, I knew I would be okay. I knew my family would support. I knew that friends would support. And I knew I was talented. But there, it was like I was starting from scratch. And I didn't have that village that I had become accustomed to. Although I had met some awesome people in the industry and was able to convince them to come along too, I just I didn't have that assuredness to feel like the moment I opened the door, that bank was going to want that check the next month. Whereas when I went through an angel investor, I could curate the way it was going to be paid back. I allowed myself a year before I had to start making the first payment. Now, a lot of people won't take this deal. Don't get me wrong, but he took it. You know what I mean? And with that being said, I am so proud. I actually ended up paying him off completely and some more within the first year because I think, like I said, having his name attached to it early on brought a level of attention that I wasn't expecting.
Wow.
And we just grew extremely, extremely fast. And like I said, we had something different than what was out there. There were not a lot of salon and spas, and it was done well, you know?
Nice, awesome, awesome. So, just to kind of wrap this point up, what would you say if someone's asking, okay, so what if I don't have a friend who plays pro ball? What you're talking, you mentioned terms multiple times. Can you tell somebody like what type of terms should some is ideal and maybe what I type of terms are realistic?
I mean, I really feel like if you know what you can bring to the table, um, the term, I mean, they have to be what you feel that you can do. I have never wanted, and I have invested in some of my salons, but more of them, even for my salon here, I have an investor. Um, but I always try to negotiate because I want to be fair with people, but I also, whatever I put on that paper, I want to be able to deliver. So it's important that the terms work with what you're able to do. Um, for me, like I said, I've always been a pretty good stylist that have always been a six-figure stylist. So I knew I had always had savings. And even though I did not want to use my money, I always had it in case I needed to pay that person back. So that's kind of, the terms can vary because I don't have a contract that's the same, honestly. He was a friend, and I've had two other investors that actually were clients. They came to my business every week and they saw the operation. They wanted to be a part of that. So I think you can leverage those relationships as well. But some of the differences as with Dikembe, so to speak, it was literally like he wrote the check, here, do your thing. With the others, they did want to be a little more hands-on. And as I mentioned before, when people don't completely know the industry, it can be a little challenging sometimes. So make sure that whatever your terms are, that you allow for that, because we as artists, we just think differently. And I found myself to think more from, what is it, the left side, right side? I feel like I'm in the middle because I've always owned businesses. So I've always had to operate from that space as well as from the creative space. But a lot of people won't see it that the same way we see things, because we let's be honest, we see things in a very different way. I feel like my then husband used to say that all the time, like, how did you get that from that? We hear things differently all the time. Creatives, I think we just do,
I do, absolutely. So, make sure that the payback period, when you have to start paying back the loan, is something you're comfortable with. Have some money in the bank, of your own money in the bank, so that way, like I'm assuming for emergencies, and then make sure you understand how hands-on these people whoever's giving you money, whether it's a bank, an investor, a friend, a
Yes.
family member, make sure you understand and clearly communicate, and maybe even draft out in paperwork. And now you use
Definitely that.
AI to help
Always a
you like that.
contract. I mean, none of
Yeah.
these contracts, I'm saying this, but I have never drawn up my own contract. I've always had an attorney do that
Okay.
because that legal jargon, I don't know anything about. I can explain to them what I want, what I want it to look like, and then they can make it all happen. I will say this because I've always shopped my deals. I have always used my own attorney to already have the contract in place. A lot of times I think people feel scared to ask for exactly what they want. And if people don't give you what you want, you just move on to the next person. I can remember reading She CEO back in the day, and it was a story about Kathy Hughes in there. And when she wanted to start her radio station here in DC, she had gone to 33 banks and all of them said no. She
Wow.
went to the 34th bank and it was a woman who just got a big job at the bank. Was, I guess, like the manager there. And she said, yeah, she said, somebody took a chance on me and I'm going to take a chance on you. So don't get discouraged when you aren't finding that investor. Just keep on moving. Do not, I guess, tweak your terms if it's something that you know that you can deliver. Or if it's something that doesn't work for you, if you feel like they're asking for too much, just move on to the next person. That's what I would say, because you're the one that's going to be in there day in and day out, and you're the one who have to deliver. So the terms definitely need to work for you.
Love it, love it. I feel like I'm just thinking about our time on this sh on our show today, and I feel like there's so many more questions I want to ask, but just to keep on up with the time, like for example, I'd love to dive in to more specifics about your time in Atlanta because it sounds like you own quite a few salons in Atlanta. But I want to make sure we get all the way through your story. So tell us about how and why you leave Atlanta to get back to the DC area, and tell us a little bit about that kind of brings you up to today.
So I probably had 3 or 4 other stops before I came from Atlanta to
Oh,
DC
okay. What were they?
at the time, and only one that I opened a salon. I actually retired for 5 years, so I came out of retirement to do this project.
What?
My then husband is a college football coach. He actually played professional football as well back in the 90s. But
Nice.
anywho, we were chasing his dream because he helped me achieve my goals. I will say that. Like when we grew and grew and grew, he brought like that team element to all of my businesses. So it allowed me to be the creative side, which is why I mentioned him. He was like, I don't know how you got that from that, because he did a lot of the management side. But then I think he started feeling like that's not my thing. I done gave this girl 20 years. I want to get back to what works for me. So he got back into football and started coaching. And in that industry, if they're not winning, they'll get fired. So literally, we probably moved. Well, we did move a lot. We moved from Atlanta and when he first left, I didn't go because I really, really loved where I was, loved what I was doing. But I had 3 small kids at the time. I waited later in life to have children. And I felt like I was being selfish to, be living in 2 different places. And I had worked my tail off for a long time. And he kept on saying, you need to just rest, you need to rest. So we first moved to Champaign, Illinois. He was at the University of Illinois. And I don't want this story to end up being about him, but I opened a small 4-station salon there because it's just in me. I couldn't just sit still. Even though I was doing the stay at home mom thing, I would go in and see a couple clients because it just wasn't in me to do so then. But then they got fired. We went to Mississippi. We went to Toledo, back to Illinois. So when I was doing all this moving around, I just had to kind of dive into being a wife and being a mother, because as soon as you kind of get going and they get fired, you can't keep on starting these businesses and you can't see them through, because it usually takes at least 2 years to get it really rolling and off the ground, in my opinion. So if we're somewhere for a year, it just didn't make sense to keep doing it. But
Sure.
I did grow tired of that lifestyle. And then I started feeling like something was missing in me. And this is home for me. So I wanted to come back here to do what I have been calling my final project, but And unfortunately, at the time of, oh, well, I won't say unfortunately, I was so excited about this project. I was still living in Illinois, so I was coming back and forth with the architects and doing all of the things, setting up the space, and we were set to open for March of 2020. And when you talk about a challenge, now this is salon number 10 for me. And I really was like, oh, I could do this with my eyes closed. I've been, at home. So I've been thinking about this. I know I got my strategy in place. I know what to do. I knew people here, but when I say that COVID took us out. So obviously we didn't open in March, but we were paying rent starting March.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yes. And we had not even had the opportunity. And I moved here. I got an apartment here in the building where my salon is because I still lived in Illinois, but I needed to be able to navigate being back and forth. And I was here, moving here to actually do the business. So I wanted to be close to that. Yep. So not only were we paying for a salon, I paid rent in an apartment in a building that set for 5 months before, because I actually moved the beginning of February and we ended up not opening until July.
Man, did you get any relief?
We did not, because we didn't have anything to show or prove because we had
Right.
never opened our
And your
doors.
landlord didn't cut you a break?
For a couple months, but to be honest with you, we took so long. We were way past the construction time, and my space is amazing. It really is. But we were already a little behind on construction, and I mean, everyone was feeling it. So he did a couple months, but at that point, it was like,
Yeah.
we just had
That's why
to
you need
bite the
that money,
bullet.
that savings in the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so you okay, sorry. So you were saying, so you opened the salon and you don't get to open when you're supposed to. COVID hits, and then you take it from there.
So then, literally, when I tell you, I'm just going to back up a little bit. When I was in Atlanta, and there was a time I had two 30-station salons at the same time, there was always a wait list for stylists to get in. So whenever, and people, like we had maybe a 3-year period where no one ever left. And we just kept building it up. So whenever someone would, or if we, for whatever reason, if we had to let someone go, we would have auditions for that space.
Wow.
So now I am faced with calling all of the people I know. And at this point, when I move here and I'm doing this project, I'm in my early 50s. So I am, of course, calling on people that I know from the industry from back in the day. And I would literally say 90% of them were done. COVID completely took them out. They started moving into other spaces.
Wow.
So this was the first time I was ever faced with the challenge of staffing, ever. And I will say I've been open since 2020. Probably was 23 before I finally got the right people in place. So 3 years just on trying to get the staffing straight. And I've gone through all of the things through salon management companies, salon placement companies, Indeed. I mean, posting on our Instagram, doing everything that I knew how to do. But with that being said, I had not lived in this area for 27 years. So, like I said, most of the stylists that I knew had moved on. And I got a lot of referrals from people in Atlanta because I spent a lot of time there. So a few stylists that actually came from referrals of Atlanta. And one of the stylists who was with me at 5 of my locations was then living in New York. And, they were a ghost town. So he actually, when I was telling him of my issues with staffing, he said, you know what, girl, I'm going to move there. I'm going to come there. We all got to start all over. So that was a big help as well.
Nice, nice,
Yeah.
awesome. This not I know we're at our time, but this whole staffing thing, I don't think it's just you. I think this
Yeah.
is like an industry wide thing, which we can kind of like dig in a little more at another conversation because I definitely want to hear about all of these Atlanta stories because you said sometimes it was two at a time. And you owned how many salons? Seven in
So
Atlanta?
7 there. Yes.
Yeah, so like there's some stories there, some very valuable stories of entrepreneurship and
Yes.
running a business. But we are kind of running at our time. You mentioned before the call that you were doing you were kind of working in some different things. You were talking about your last project. I would love for you to take this time to kind of like give us any last bits of the story that you'd like to share in tonight's call, and also where can people find you? And if anybody is interested in maybe hitting you up, asking you some questions, reaching out for advice, or maybe even someone's watching this who's like, "Hey, I want to. I wonder if they're hiring."
Yes.
Would you would tell it? Give us go ahead and wrap your
Okay.
story up, and then
So you
all
can
that stuff.
follow me at the Real Hair Icon, and all of my businesses you can get from that page. But obviously, if you're looking for Salon, home, it's McKenna Jordan Salon Bar, and that's over in Atlanta, Maryland. We're right across from the IRS building, right near the Amtrak station there. And what I have been doing this year, I started my own community where I am, because clearly, if I've had all of these salons, I have been passionate about helping stylists grow and helping all stylists become six-figure stylists behind a chair and scale to a seven-figure beauty entrepreneur. So coming out of retirement, a lot of what that was about, because I was having some issues with seeing specifically in the Black hair care market where things were going. And I just felt like I had something to offer. I knew I had something to offer, and some guidance and some strategy, because it was almost starting to feel like the Wild Wild West. We don't shampoo, we don't do, it's all kind of crazy stories that you hear out there. And a lot of times I just feel like people don't have mentorship. So that's what this is called, the Air Beauty Collective. It's a community. And we've been allowing our first 100 to get in for free. We're up to about 80. And I just started this a couple months ago. So you can go to that page as well, the Air Beauty Collective, and that's HE, like Air to the Throne, Air to the Beauty Throne, spelt that way, and join that community. We only have about 15 to 20 slots left that are free. And at some point, this will become a community that you would have to have a subscription to join. So once you join, you're in there. So I would employ anybody who can't find their way and they're looking for like a group. That's why I'm calling myself a beauty strategist, because I am determined when I walk away from this thing that I am leaving it better than I came into it.
Love that. Love that. Awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure getting to hear your story, or at least the overview of the and the highlights of the story. I definitely would love to have you on again to dive deeper into beauty, small business ownership, and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But until then, is there any last words of advice or thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off?
I mean, I think really what I wanted to share was just that, because anybody that
Okay.
has any questions for me or struggling to find their way in this industry, because like I said, for me, I've said I've been in this industry 39 years. I've probably been a six-figure stylist 38 of those years, because I found a strategy that I think that works. Um, I think one of the challenges that stylists are having today is they're all over the place. They're doing part-time here. They aren't really choosing this industry as a career. They're looking at it as a job. So that's kind of my goal, to, really resonate with people that this can be a very lucrative business to be a part of, but you have to take it serious and not feel like it's your side hustle, because I can't, like, I literally pinch myself sometimes of how good this industry has been to me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do. I do. All right. Well, this has been a pleasure. And I mean, you just brought up another topic that we like to talk about is, like how are people thinking about this industry, and like, the job versus a career thing. I think it's another interesting topic. So until next time,
Yes.
you have a good one. Happy holidays.
Same to
And
you. You see, I'm
I
ready back here.
yeah, I see you ready. I know. I'm like, man. I'm like, Sammy. We bought the Christmas tree, but
Yes.
we haven't decorated yet. And in my defense, it's the beginning of December, and so we'll be getting it decorated this week for sure.
Okay.
But anyway, happy holidays, happy New Year, and I'll be in touch.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you for
All right.
having me.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye.